Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Mommy Monday video. My best friend just had a baby and I'm so excited for her. I'm so happy for her. I have loved just being a small part of this experience for her. It got me thinking about all of the things that I wish I would have known about giving birth in a hospital before I gave birth in a hospital. As she was getting ready to go and even after she delivered her baby, I was like giving her all these tips and advice and I was like, oh this, oh that. And then I was like, you know what? I should make a YouTube video about this because there's shockingly a lot of things that I didn't know. So the first thing I want to talk about is breastfeeding versus formula feeding. I don't know if it's like this in all hospitals. In fact, all of these things, I don't know if it's like this in all hospitals. I can only speak from my experience and from experiences that I've heard from others, but typically, when you tell the nursing staff that you are breastfeeding or you want to breastfeed, they will not offer you formula or pacifiers at all. No matter what your circumstance is, no matter what your situation is, they are not allowed to offer you formula. And I remember, so I had planned to breastfeed and I told him I was going to breastfeed. When I was in the hospital, the second night I was there, my son, I mean, it was awful. In general, you're learning how to breastfeed, you're sleep deprived, you got all these hormonal things going on, adrenaline. So it's a mess as it is. But on top of that, we had done skin to skin and breastfeeding for hours. And I remember I had just gotten done with like a 2-hour long breastfeeding session and I was exhausted. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning and all I wanted to do was sleep, and Lincoln was just screaming at the top of his lungs. And eventually, I don't remember if it was a lactation consultant or a nurse, kind of like meekly offered a pacifier. She was like, do you want to try a pacifier? And I was like, yes, give me a pacifier. Like, why aren't you giving me a pacifier? And so I later learned that they're not supposed to offer that to you. They want to encourage breastfeeding and latching and all of that stuff. Additionally, looking back at that night and a lot of the time in the hospital and even a little bit postpartum, when your milk is coming in, I'm not a professional, okay? I'm just a mom speaking from my experience, but I feel like a lot of the fussiness and the crying and the sleeplessness was just hunger. That poor baby was just so hungry, especially looking back at those first couple of days. My milk hadn't come in yet. All he was getting was colostrum, which, sometimes is enough, sometimes it's not. But if I had just supplemented with formula or donor milk in those first couple of days while my milk was coming in, I feel like my experience would have been a little bit better, possibly. But never once was I offered formula in the hospital. You have to ask for it. So, moral of the story is, if you tell them you're breastfeeding, they will not give you they will not offer a pacifier and they will not offer formula. If that's something you want or you want to try, you have to ask for it. The second thing I want to mention is the supplies that are available to moms for postpartum care. So when I went on my hospital tour prior to delivering my baby, I remember asking, and I went twice. I went on this tour twice, and I asked both times, what supplies do you have available for mom? And I was told nothing. And when I asked that question, I was meaning like dermaplast, Tux pads, regular pads, underwear, shampoo, conditioner, toiletries, things like that. In my mind, that's what I meant when I asked the question, but I suppose they didn't interpret it that way because I was told nothing. And then when I actually got to the hospital and got to my postpartum room, they had everything. And it makes sense because you have to assume they have to be prepared for every type of labor and delivery situation. So you think of those moms that didn't know they were pregnant, which is a whole nother story, but went into labor and they obviously weren't prepared, obviously didn't have a bag packed. They have to have everything ready for that mom, right? Or you think about the moms who go into labor early, preterm labor, unexpectedly, the moms who don't bring a bag and don't bring supplies, they have to be ready for this stuff, right? So that said, I wish I kind of would have thought about that and realized I didn't need to prepare or buy a lot of the postpartum things that I did, like dermaplast and tux pads and all of that jazz. In addition to that, I do want to mention that the lactation consultants at my hospital also provided me with every single thing I would need for breastfeeding. They even offered a My Breast Friend pillow for me to use during my stay at the hospital. They do have a pump there for you, the Medela Symphony. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. It's hospital grade, so it's a lot more efficient than the pumps that we have at home. They will bring the pump in for you, and then in addition to that, they gave me all of the pump parts. So I got 2 sets of the cones, or I think it's called phalanges, 2 different sizes, the membranes, the cords that connect to the pump. I got a hand pump. I got bottles to put everything in, sanitizing spray, sanitizing wipes, nipple butter, nipple cream. I mean, they gave me everything. And I was able to take all of those supplies home. I couldn't take the pump home, but I was able to take all of the other things home. And that's a lot of money when you think about a full set of pump parts and supplies and cleaning things like that. So they also gave me cooling pads for my nipples. I think it was like 2nd or 3rd day in. I told them that they were super duper sore, and they gave me some of those too. So they literally have everything you could possibly need for that experience. The next thing I want to mention is the mesh panties, at least at my hospital, are not as comfortable as everybody says. Again, I think this depends on your hospital, but I remember watching a ton of like labor and delivery videos and hospital bag videos, and everyone was like, the mesh panties are so comfortable, they're amazing. So I went into this experience thinking that the mesh panties were going to be great, and I was going to want a whole bunch of them to like take home with me. They weren't. For me and for my hospital, they're much more like a mesh gauze that stretches very easily. And I see why, because they have to be one size fits all. But because they are able to stretch so much, they got really saggy really fast for me. And then on top of that, you put a giant pad in there, which I was prepared for and I knew, but you put this giant pad inside of these really stretchy gauze panties, and it's just not a very comfortable experience. It's bulky. I know Frida Baby Mom or Frida Mom has some postpartum underwear. Those weren't a thing when I delivered my son, but now they are. That is definitely something I'm gonna look into with my next pregnancy or hospital delivery experience. Another thing that I did not know, and again, I keep saying this, but it depends on your hospital. My hospital does not have a nursery, and I know that a lot of hospitals are like this now, where they don't have a nursery. You think about way back in the day, probably when you and I were born, babies didn't stay in the room with the parents. Once you were born, they kind of whisked you off to the nursery, and you spent the majority of your hospital stay at the nursery, and they brought you to mom to feed or whatever, and then whisked you away. Now, most hospitals will have the baby stay with you the entire time, and there isn't a nursery option. In situations like that, again, the baby is with you the entire time, and it's very possible that you will go through experiences like I did, where you are just so incredibly sleep deprived. By day 2 or 3 of you being there, you haven't slept for more than 30 minutes at a time. You're hungry, you're exhausted, you're hormonal, and you just need a break. And I encourage you, if you're watching this, to find a way to take that break, to get some rest, to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself, because when you are in that situation, especially sleep deprivation, it does some wild, irrational things to your mind. You can't think clearly, you can't make decisions, everything is harder, and the situation seems impossible. So you need to get yourself some sleep, and you need to figure out a way to make that happen. In my situation, I don't remember if I asked or if it just happened, but one of the nurses ended up taking Lincoln out of my room for me. So she rolled his little bassinet out of the room for me and kept him at the nurse's station for about an hour so that me and my husband could get some peaceful, restful sleep. At the time, I hated that happened. but thinking back, it was so necessary, and I'm so glad that she did it. I don't know if that's standard practice, but my sister, who is a labor and delivery nurse, she used to be a postpartum nurse, told me that they're not allowed to offer, but if you ask them, the nurses will typically gladly take your baby and watch them for about an hour so you can get some rest. They love it when you do that. They love holding the babies. They love having that opportunity, but you have to ask. Another thing I was not prepared for and wasn't necessarily sure would happen or when it would happen is paying your entire hospital bill there. At the moment, usually, you know, shortly after you deliver, your hospital will probably ask you to pay your entire bill then and there. I don't know what happens when you can't pay your bill. I assume they have payment plans or credit available or something like that. But yeah, we were expected to pay our full hospital bill before we left the hospital. I have heard stories of the billing folks coming in like right after you deliver. Like one of my coworkers said that she was still numb from the epidural, and billing rolled in and was like, okay, your total is XYZ. And she's like, I'm still numb. Luckily, my hospital wasn't like that. They waited until day 2, I think, or maybe it was day 3 to have us pay our bill. But the situation varies, and it also depends on your insurance, how much your bill is going to be. But that is something I kind of thought they would just like send a bill in the mail. My one word of advice for the hospital is take a million pictures. Take pictures and videos of everything. I had this situation, and I know it has a lot to do with hormones and just me and my personality in general, but I had this feeling like I wasn't allowed to take pictures. I was afraid to take photos. I was afraid to hold my baby originally, and I just kind of felt like I was like, why was I in this situation? I wasn't allowed to be here. Why am I here? This isn't my baby. This isn't my room. And so I didn't take as many pictures and videos as I wish I did. I wish I had more videos and pictures of me. I don't have any pictures of myself postpartum, in the postpartum room. I don't have any. I think my in-laws have one of me, and I know I don't look great in it, but it's a memory, you know, and it's something that I wish I could look back on and I can't. And then I only have like a couple of pictures of my son. And granted, you're only in the hospital for a couple of days, but I just wish I would have documented and take more videos and pictures of everything, because you can. It's your baby. It's your, you know, you're paying to be in that room. It's private. You can do all of that. Okay, the last thing I will say, and I think most people know this, but if you're watching this video, you might not know this, is most things that are in that postpartum room, you are allowed to take with you. And in fact, you should take with you. So things like all of your mommy postpartum care. So all of the extra pads in the bathroom, the extra mesh panties, if you want them, are in the bathroom. Your can of Dermaplast that they should or might give you, your Tux pads, your little tiny bottle of shampoo that they give you, your hairbrush, they give you a toothbrush, and they give you earplugs and all these things. That's all yours to take home. In addition, they also gave me, I think they gave me a sitz bath. I ended up not using it, but they did give me that. Ice packs, all of this stuff you can take and you can ask for more. And in fact, if you every day kind of tuck a few away in your bag, the nurses will replenish those supplies, and then you can continuously kind of take more and take more to get a little stock of it all. So know that, and not just mom items, but the baby items as well. So all of the diapers, the wipes, they should give you a little bottle of baby shampoo, baby lotion, a hairbrush, the beanie that they put on your baby, you know, the hat they put on your baby once they're born, the little shirt that they put on your baby, because typically the hospital will provide some sort of clothing for your baby. That's all yours to take. You can take it. And I know the more disposable or the more reusable things like the clothing and the blankets, they probably don't encourage you to take that, because that stuff can be washed, just like the towels in the bathroom can be washed and the sheets on the bed can be washed. But I mean, we took the shirt that Lincoln was wearing, and you know, we weren't arrested or anything like that. We also took one of the swaddle blankets, so the little like receding swaddle blankets. Every single baby is wrapped in the same blanket when they're born, you know, the pink and blue stripes on it. I don't think you're technically supposed to take those, but we did take maybe 1 or 2 of those home. One of them we took to give to the dogs so they could kind of smell him before we brought him home. But most definitely the diapers, the wipes, all of that kind of stuff, slowly take a little bit of it every day. And in fact, I was told by the hospital staff that if you leave any of that stuff behind, they cannot reuse it for the next patient and they have to throw it out, which is devastating because that kind of stuff is expensive. Wipes, diapers, pads, cans of Dermoplast. I mean, it's expensive, but especially now with COVID going on. Also, the little bottles of formula. So if for some reason you get those little tiny bottles of pre-made formula, those are very expensive in the stores. They're so convenient, and I appreciate that the hospital has it. But if you go to like Target or your local grocery store to buy them, they are very expensive. So if they give you any, ask for more and take them all home with you. If they give you any of the reusable nipples or pacifiers, take it all home with you. All right, guys, well, that is the end of this video. Those are all of the things that I recently was able to recall. Like, I wish I knew this before I gave birth in a hospital. So if there's anything that I didn't mention that you wish you knew before you gave birth in a hospital, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious. I know everybody's birthing experience is different and every hospital is different, but I'm just curious. So let me know in the comment section down below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.